Tomorrow, May 7th, is my birthday. Well, tomorrow as of the date of this video posting anyways. And I thought a great way to celebrate a birthday is to discuss some tips for starting your candle business or any handcrafted business for that matter. Every business has a birthday too, and maybe yours has already passed or maybe yours is yet to begin. So tomorrow, I am turning 37. And in turning 37, I thought, well, I'll do 37 tips for starting your candle business. Then I had a mild panic attack because the thought of 37 tips in one single video gave me anxiety. And I'd like to actually be awake on my birthday rather than sleeping through the entire thing because I was up all night making a video with 37 tips. But if 37 is too many, well, what about 3 plus 7 equals 10? So 10 tips. And 10 tips seems more reasonable. Some I had the luxury of knowing when I first started, but others I wish I would have known at the time. Hi everyone, my name is Wade. I'm the owner of Black Tie Barn Candle Company and the Black Tie Barn Workshop. I run this YouTube channel which is dedicated, along with my other platforms, to helping other handcrafters with making, selling, and so on. Thank you all for stopping by, and for those that are new here, welcome. Please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get started. So tip number 1 is to have a plan, but not just any plan. Plans that are based around SMART goals. That is S-M-A-R-T. And we'll dive into that here in just a moment. Saying that I want to make and sell candles for a living is not a plan. And I want to be a millionaire selling candles by November 13th of it doesn't matter. That's not a plan. That's a desire. That's a wish list. A plan has to be actionable and purposeful. So all your goals should be what are called SMART goals. So what does SMART goals mean for anyone that is new to that term? Well, the S stands for specific. Detailed yet straightforward goals. Figure out the who, the what, the where, the why, and the how of your goal. The M stands for measurable. You have to be able to assess and track your progress. How many, how much, and so on. That will help keep you focused and motivated, but also, very importantly, accountable. And A stands for achievable. Is your goal even possible? If you set unrealistic goals, you're doomed to fail from the very beginning. The R stands for relevant. Is this goal relevant to your long-term plan and your purpose? Is it important to you? Are you the right person for this goal? Is this the best time to try to achieve this goal? And then lastly, the T stands for time-bound. A goal has to have a target date or end time. It needs an end to it. That way you know if you've actually achieved your goal. So one of the examples I gave above was, I want to be a millionaire selling candles by whatever date. Ironically, this goal does actually check some of those boxes. It is measurable, millionaire. It is time-bound, November 13th of 2025. Is it obtainable? Well, probably not. At least for most and certainly those starting out. That is setting an unrealistic expectation. Is it relevant? Well, that depends. Have you been making candles for 20 plus years and have a reputable, established business already making $750,000 a year in sales? Well then yeah, it's attainable and relevant. It makes sense and it seems to align with your trajectory. But if you're just starting out your business, then no, that would not be a relevant or attainable goal. The point here is to take small steps and use SMART goals. For example, I'd like to have my first 8 candle options tested and ready by August 1st. I'd like to have my website live by November 1st. Or maybe I want 1,000 page views by the end of my first year, and so on. Those are all considered SMART goals, and those are the type of goals and plans that you should be working towards. Tip number 2. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. In other words, you have to have a backup to everything. A backup wax, a backup wick, backup jars, etc. Have at least 2 options for everything that you can. When I test a candle, for example, I find 2 wicks that work really well. I like to have 2 jars or containers to sell all my candles in. And over the years, I've used several waxes that I'm super confident and comfortable with, particularly a few of them. Why? Options. Same reason I wouldn't put every penny or every dollar into one single stock. If something bad happens, you need to have other options to keep you going and to fall back on. Because what happens if you run out of wicks for your particular candle? Or you're having trouble getting more jars or more wax? Your business would just come to a halt along with its sales. This situation has been highlighted in bright freaking yellow recently due to the pandemic. Shortages happen, supply chain issues happen, Price hikes happen. So don't let your business be so dependent on single materials that without it you'd be crippled. And that is why 2 is 1 and 1 is none is so important. Having 2 of something really assures that you have at least 1. But only having 1 of something risks having none. Tip number 3, paddle or sink. This tip is all about promoting your business. This is about how you promote your products and your business. Everyone around you is, and they're stirring up waves. If you don't paddle hard as well, you'll never stay afloat and you'll never succeed. You will literally sink. After you have a product, a brand, a concept, etc., it's time to hit the market. And notice the key word in that phrase. It is called hitting the market, not softly brushing up against it in hopes to get a reaction. You have to promote your business and your products. You may have the best product in the world. You may have the best burning candle, the softest soap in the world. It's completely irrelevant if no one knows about it. Your product is the car, but the promoting is the engine. Got to get the car moving. And there are a lot of options to help you do that. It could be social media like Instagram, Facebook. You could do paid ads. You could use influencers, something, anything. I'm not saying to wing it. You want to create a plan. You want to have a strategy, but you have to let people know about you. You have to promote the product and your business in some way, somehow. It is not going to sell itself. Tip number 4, keep things simple. Don't overthink things and don't try to force things to happen. Now I'm going to talk about something specifically that many of us try to force and manipulate all the time, and that is trying to manipulate our materials to perform in a way that they just naturally don't want to perform. This is really common when sometimes candle makers have an issue getting a good scent throw from a particular candle or wax. If you've tested 10 fragrance oils in your wax and 7 of them throw really well, but 3 don't, well, then the problem isn't your wax or your wick or even your process most likely. But we get stubborn and we feel like I've got to make this work. If I just try this or if I just try that, when the obvious solution is to just replace the oil. Sometimes not all oils work with every wax and every wick, and you're not always going to get the hot throw you're looking for. But we tend to overcomplicate things, and we try to trick our wax or change up a process to try to make things work. My advice is to keep it simple. If you find a process that works well for you overall, you're happy with your wax, your jars, and so on, then ignore the outliers. It's a waste of your sanity to keep fighting it. It's like when we're in traffic jams and we're constantly trying to change lanes to get out of the traffic jam and to keep moving. You're fighting the inevitable. How often does changing lanes actually help? Most of the time, as soon as you get over, the previous lane starts moving, and as soon as you move back, the other lane starts moving once again. It rarely ever helps, and usually just causes much more frustration. So, sample waxes until you find what you like most of the time. Settle on the jars that you like. Create a process that works for you overall and stay consistent with those choices. If you don't like your wax, just change it. But trying to force your wax, or any other material for that matter, to try to perform in a way that you want by constantly adjusting your processes or changing materials is just going to make you want to run your head into a brick wall multiple times. And it's far less painful to test multiple waxes than to test multiple walls. Trust me. Tip number 5 is having organized processes. This means tracking your inventory, your expenses, your recipes for your products, your cost of goods, your orders, and so on. There is no better option out there to use than the one I always recommend on this channel, and that is called Crafty Base. You have all heard me mention it before. You've seen me using it or referencing it in other videos. I have an earlier video that's kind of overviewing some of the features and giving you a basic walkthrough of the software. And things have changed a little bit. They've added some features, things like that. But I have many more videos on Crafty Base coming soon, specifically on using that software. I have used it for several years now. Nothing else comes close. And I have tried them all. And I mean, I have tried them all. Other options can do a few things well, but none are near as powerful as Crafty Base. My operations run through it. It tracks my inventory, both finished goods and raw materials. It handles my expenses, my recipes of all my products. It even calculates the cost of goods automatically for each product. And it continues to do that even when I replenish materials, change materials. It's so dynamic that it's continually tracking changes and making everything more efficient, more organized for me. It can even recommend some price guidance for some of you that are just starting out. It's really a powerful tool. It can help you take stock. It has a ton of reports and so on. I could go on and on about Crafty Base. It does take some planning and setup. which most good things do, which honestly I kind of enjoy and find kind of fun, but it does become invaluable in my opinion. Anyways, as I mentioned, many more videos coming specifically on Crafty Base very soon. I'm actually going to be creating an entire playlist based off of walkthroughs and how-tos and how you can use Crafty Base for candle making, soap making, really any kind of handcrafted business. I will link to the Crafty Base overview video I've done before up above and in the description, but again, there are new videos coming soon. For now, my point is to just have a system, even if it isn't Crafty Base, to track all of these processes and information. You will regret it down the road if you don't. If you ignore any of the tips in this video, which I hope you don't, just make sure it's not this one. All right, tip number 6. It is not illegal to make a profit. The goal in business is to make a profit. And for all of those that say, I don't care about the money, I just do this because I love it and I'm passionate about it. That's great, but it's a lot easier to keep doing something you love with more money. Profits have this negative connotation about them as if it's some kind of bad word like or. I'd encourage everyone to think of profits in a different way. Profits are proof that things are working. If customers like your products, they should want you to profit so that you can keep giving them more of what they want. Because the truth is, if you can't profit, you can't provide. The point of this tip is to reassure you that it is okay to price your products for profit, to price for what you think your product is worth. But that being said, I've seen some makers who price their products in a way that tells me they really, really think their products are worth a lot. But that's okay, it's up to you. It's your business. I would recommend you do some research and accurately calculate your cost to set a reasonable price, a price that's fair for the market, because it's awfully hard to profit if your products never leave your shelf. But that's an entirely different conversation. My point here is just that making a profit is okay. Actually, it means you're doing a good job. The next tip, hit that like button below to give this video a thumbs up. And while you're at it, subscribe and hit the bell icon if you are interested in more content like this. YouTube is great, but it isn't always great at pushing content to the people who want to see it. So if you don't want to miss anything, it just takes 3 quick clicks, and that is a thumbs up, subscribe, and the bell. Help me help you. Tip number 7, ignore your friends and family. Yep, you read that right. When it comes to feedback from those close to you, like friends and family, 99% of the time, they'd fall into one of 2 categories. First are the friends and family that just simply don't or won't support you, period. They think it's silly or a waste of time. They don't think you can be successful. Some of them just put you or your products down just to be mean. Whatever the reason is, none of it is helpful. But what's even worse than that is the friends and family who support you no matter what. They rave about your products and tell you they are amazing even when they're not. And that is even worse. The saying goes, it's easier to trust a compulsive liar than someone who mostly tells the truth. Why? Because I can always trust that a liar will lie, or something like that. The point is, getting objective feedback is critical to your development and your success. You need honest, real, and helpful feedback. It is much more difficult to recover from being misled than it is from being discouraged. Tip number 8, RATS. Another acronym, this one stands for Research, Absorb, Test, and Substantiate. I don't know if that's a real phrase or acronym or not. It's something I noted a long time ago and I like to use it. But the best way to explain this in one sentence is, take everything you see, read, or hear with a grain of salt until verified. There is a lot of information and misinformation out there about how to make candles, soaps, any other products, and how to run a business, and so on. Some of it's great, some of it's okay, and some of it I wouldn't tell my worst enemy. The best thing you can do is validate everything for yourself. So here's my recommendation, not just for new candle makers, but anyone learning anything, anytime. Here are the steps that I use to validate that information. Research. Watch, read, study everything you can, especially when you're starting out. Do as much research as you can. Some of it will be solid information, some of it will be garbage. You can weed it out later. The idea here in this step is just to gain perspective and a better understanding of your research topic or your industry. Are you seeing any consistency in the information? Are you seeing any contradictions? Both of those provide different types of insight. So research as much as you can to open your mind. Absorb. This is about engaging a little bit now. So you're becoming more of an active participant in your research, asking questions to fellow handcrafters, jumping in forums and groups, posting questions in the comment section of this video, for example. Speaking of which, I have a quick question for all of you. Please post your answer real quickly in the comment section. What do you all struggle with more, candle making or running a candle business? I'm really curious, so just give that a quick answer below in the comment section. Anyways, back to Absorb. The idea here is to get direct feedback and engagement. It's like the research step, but more focused, more specific. Take everything in at this point still, whether you agree or disagree. Believe or don't believe, love, hate, absorb it all. Test. This is where you begin to validate what you have learned in your research and absorb through your engagement. So remember how I said to take everything with a grain of salt? Well, this is your chance to test that information. Experiment for yourself. What results do you get? Let your results tell the story for you. For example, maybe someone told you that an HTP 126 wick was perfect for your coconut wax in a small jelly jar. You try it and find out that instead it started a small forest fire in your jar. This is why we test. The follow-up to testing is substantiate. And this is where we put it all together. Your research gave you some standard wick starting points for a jelly jar and a soft wax ranging from HTP 52 to 93. But as we talked about before, someone recommended to you that an HTP 126 would work because, well, they're pyromaniacs, and you wouldn't have known that. In your testing, you found that the HTP 126 to be way too large and that you were mostly using an HTP 62 to 73. So in this example, your research fell in the middle of the range of your research, but not consistent with the outlier's recommendation. You will have much more confidence in your information after comparing your own test against your own research and your own peers, and so on. Following this process of research, absorb, test, and substantiate will add validity and trust in your information, plus the added benefit of getting to know your materials and your products much better. Tip number 9, ROI, return on investment. This is all about focusing on what matters the most. Use your time wisely. ROI really is a term that comes from the finance world, but it isn't just a financial term. However, we can reference that financial term for just a minute to understand quickly what it means. And it just simply means how much are you making on your investment? So in finance, there are formulas to help businesses and financial analysts determine this for various purposes and different applications. But again, an investment doesn't just mean financial. When you're starting or running a business, investment could also mean your time, your energy, and so on. And like money, each of those are also finite. We only have so much of it at any given time, so it's really important that we utilize them efficiently. So let's talk about an example. In business, would you invest $1,000 to make $5 6 months later if it was anything less than guaranteed? Of course not. And even if it was guaranteed, that ROI or return on that investment is so small that $1,000 could have been better used doing something else. And that is actually referred to as opportunity costs, but hello, I'm drifting way off topic here. Anyways, I can confidently assume that none of us would take $1,000, hand it to someone in hopes that they'll give us $1,000 plus $5 6 months later. So would you spend $1,000 on ads before you even have a product? I wouldn't. Would you spend 100 hours designing labels before you even have a jar or a brand concept for that matter? I wouldn't. My advice is to simply focus on what matters the most at any given time, especially when starting out. Focus on testing and creating a quality product first. You can tackle everything else later. When the product is right, everything else becomes easier. And tip number 10, identify your target market. Find a niche, create a brand. As Jeff Bezos said, a brand for a company is like a reputation for a person. It is important to have a good one, but just as important to have one that people can identify you or your business with. A good analogy here is that trying to sell to everyone is like being that person at work that everyone likes. You are good at your job, but more so you're known as the person that's easy to talk to, you're friendly, no one really ever has anything bad to say about you. But are they going to go to you to make a budget decision? Are they going to go to you to be a project manager, or to implement a new technology, or to create an important proposal? You have to have a product and a business with a focus. You need to be known for something that people can identify and relate to you specifically. This is much easier to do if you know your target market, your target audience, the customers you're trying to reach. So what is your niche? Define your brand. This is a chance for you to be unique, and to shine. Not everyone is going to want your product because your product's not going to be a good fit for everyone. And that's okay. I read a quote from Jessica Walsh that said, "If no one hates it, then no one really loves it." It is much harder to find customers for your product than it is to find products for your customers. So make sure you focus on your customers and your market first. Well, lastly, an honorable mention, and that is the legal side of things, taking care of the requirements and the best practices to form your business. Now, I didn't want to talk too much about that in this video, but I do have a dedicated video on this subject for getting started with your business steps. And actually, it was my first ever video I created on this channel. I will link it above and in the description below. If this is a new world for you, the general information and guidance in that video should help get you going on the right track. Don't forget to comment below what you struggle with more, candle making or running a candle business. I'd love to get an idea for future video topics, but I'm also just generally interested. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. All of the content, as you know, that I provide on this channel is free. But of course, for my birthday, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and share it with as many people and groups as you can or would like to. It would really help this channel grow. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Thanks.